If you are an American and you feel alienated within the borders of your own country, it may be because the qualities and traits that you are attempting to express on a day-to-day basis with all of your heart simply are not valued here. Qualities and traits such as modesty, discipline, courage, temperance, wisdom. These qualities and traits are not praised here in America. They are not appreciated here in America. They are not held in any high esteem whatsoever. No, the qualities and traits that are praised, that are applauded, that are held in high esteem are the exact opposite. Because if you were to claim to possess any amount of wisdom, no matter how much experience you have, no matter how long you've lived, no matter how much contemplation you've done, everyone will point the finger at you and say that you're just another charlatan. You're just another person placing themselves on a pedestal, propping themselves up above the crowd. Who are you to claim that you know best? Who are you to claim that you have any answers? I'll refer to the Holy Book. I'll refer to the texts. I'll refer to my own internal monologue, my own inner conscience. I don't need you, no matter what you've experienced or learned or what trials and tribulations you've undergone. Wisdom, you can't possess that in America. Which is really telling because everywhere else on planet Earth, wisdom is held in high esteem, particularly in the Far East. If you are someone who doesn't venerate the elders in the Far East, that is a grave sin. That does not make you look like a very good person. People will point the finger at you and say, who are you, young one? Who are you, inexperienced one, Padawan, to claim that you have all the answers? Who are you to not listen to the stories of the elders, to not take in their experiences, to not learn from what they have undergone? Who are you? Only here in America do we listen to ourselves and ourselves only, which, of course, is why we get into so much trouble. Because we're not very good to listen to, especially not on our own. I've talked about this in many videos. You and I both need feedback. No matter if the feedback is good, negative, or somewhere in between. We need the feedback just to hear other voices that are not fabrications of our mind because we've been sitting in a cave for 30, 60, 90, 120 days, perhaps years, like many people in the jungles did after World War II in Japan. I can only imagine what that life was like, speaking of the Far East. We need the feedback, but here in America, we don't want the feedback because it's not something that's valued. It's not a trait that is held in any high esteem. Listening to others, taking in the viewpoints and perspectives of other people, internalizing them, allowing them to soak in, analyzing them, critiquing them from an objective point of view, not from your bias, and then perhaps attacking it from a place of your bias, going head to head in your mind, waging that simulated war to see who wins, to see what points are good, to see if the cavalry is stronger or if the infantry has the advantage, to see what the terrain is like. This is not held in any high esteem here in America. No, you must believe as either the government tells you to believe, as the state tells you to believe, as some political organization tells you to believe, some nonprofit, some charity group tells you to believe, some influencer. You must believe as they believe, or you must listen to your own internal monologue and no one else. And if you choose to believe either your internal monologue or an influencer, a political party, some sort of influential group, then you cannot listen to anyone else. You have to pick your classification. You have to pick your character archetype, like it's Skyrim, and then you are stuck in that for the rest of your life. If you're born a Democrat, you're going to be a Democrat. If you're born a Republican, you got to be a Republican. If you're born XYZ religion, you got to be XYZ religion. You cannot take any other inputs into your mind because those are infidels. Those are crazy people. They're loony. You can't take in their feedback. Now, of course, here in America, there's good reason to not take in their feedback because a lot of these people, in fact, almost all people, are people whose feedback is not importance, unfortunately. Because outside of the fact that they are simply another voice to listen to, their feedback is almost always going to be propaganda. It's almost always going to be verbatim messaging from some political party or group. I remember I was driving this guy in Pittsburgh before the 2024 election, and we were talking about the upcoming election, Kamala versus DJT, and he asked me who I was voting for, and I said, I don't know. I have no clue, because I really wanted to see what he would say. And he gave me his reasons for voting for Harris. And I listened to him because I wanted to see what he was going to say. But as I listened, all he said was exactly what the radio ads were saying to me in the car every single day leading up to the election. What the ads on Spotify were saying to me every single day I worked at my computer on videos. I heard propaganda verbatim from his mouth. Because another trait that is not valued here in America is critical thinking. You're not supposed to think outside the box. You're not supposed to contemplate what you actually believe, not what your monologue believes, not what the voices in your head believe, voices that come from subpersonalities that are waging war, trying to usurp the throne of your consciousness, trying to take the crown, to wear the diadem, place the purple on their back, and sit on the throne. You don't listen to those unless you're a crazy person. You don't listen to those. But here in America, that's exactly what you do. You listen to all of those voices inside of your head. People are functionally schizophrenic here in this sense, because they will listen to these voices and they will not analyze any of them. They cannot detach and remember that they are the seat of consciousness. There is an I that is not all of these voices in the head. They cannot think critically because they cannot remember that they are the king or the queen of their castle. Not the king or the queen in the sense that they must strut around with their chest up and with their eyes glaring, looking at their subjects with disdain. No, that is a trait that is valued here in America. If you're somebody that doesn't walk around looking at everyone as if they were prey, looking at everyone as if they were someone that you could hit a lick on, someone that you could take advantage of, someone that you could rope into a scheme, someone that you could dominate through words, through psychological warfare, through making them feel small, through your posture, willfully intimidating them. If you don't do that, you're probably going to feel a little different. You're probably going to feel a certain way, because here in America, that's how you win. I've talked about this before. You know it to be true. If you're not maneuvering around people, you must step on top of people. You must cut them down to size, no matter how small they are, because it truly is a jungle in this country. Do not get it twisted. And in the jungle, there are no rules, at least not in our jungle, because if you think about the actual jungle, there are rules of engagement. There are plenty symbiotic relationships. Most plants have symbiotic relationships with other organisms in the jungle. It is not a dog-eat-dog world out there in the Amazon. Things get along, they coalesce, because if they didn't, the ecosystem would fall out of order. There is a natural order to things, and it is not cutthroat. But here in America, we do not see the jungle that way. We have created an artificial jungle that is anything but symbiotic, anything but sharing and caring, anything but a jungle that can allow for positive traits to be expressed, qualities to be expressed, such as the wisdom that was aforementioned, the courage to express yourself, to showcase what wisdom you have, the courage to be creative, the courage to come up with an idea, to place it on the table, and face down the firing squad of the critics online. Because as a creative especially, you have to play with new ideas. You have to put new things on the table. You have to contemplate new ways of building a society, new structures, new institutions, new groups, new ways of thinking, new modes of behavior. If you don't think of that, if you don't play with those ideas, if you don't put it on wax or put it into a song, then you're not a creative. You're just regurgitating. You're just rewriting, transcribing, which has its value. Thank God for the Muslims transcribing the ancient Greek works. Thank God for the Muslims resurrecting 1,000-year-old documents through their scribes, from the 9th, 10th, and 11th centuries, the golden era of Islam. Thank God for them. But you have to go a step beyond. You have to interpret. You have to come up with new ideas. They also did this. Thank God for it. They're not the only ones, but they did do it, and they deserve the respect and the praise for it. But here in America, you're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to come up with a new idea. You're not supposed to translate and then come up with a new interpretation, and then expand on that, and then let it sink in, and then expand on it further, allow years to pass, allow yourself to gain more of that wisdom that nobody cares about, the context that nobody seems to pay any attention to. All of these traits and qualities are not praised here in America. No, what is praised is being a degenerate. Not necessarily in the sense that you're going out and boozing, not necessarily in the sense that you're going to the strip club or that you're throwing all your money, but being degenerate in a more passive sense, playing video games all day. That's praised because you're living the soft life. Going out to dinner and eating lavishly, gorging yourself on rich foods every single night, whether you can afford it or not, that's praised. If you can't afford it, it's praised because you're being a good consumer and you're taking one for the team because you're going into debt to keep the economy going. If you are someone who can afford it, perhaps an influencer, you are praised because you are showing off the lavish lifestyle. You are showing off perhaps the soft girl era that you're in, the era of exploration, the era of quote unquote creativity, when in fact you're just using pre-made filters on the Instagram app to make your photos, which is fine. It's perfectly okay, but creative, I don't necessarily know if we can put ourselves in that category. The traits and qualities that you're looking to express arduously, because it is an arduous process. It's not natural to be a good person. It isn't. I don't think it's natural to be a bad person either. It's just natural to be a person. But it's certainly not natural to be one or the other in my eyes. Some people have a proclivity to one or the other, but by and large, people fall smack dab in the middle because most people are average. And since most people are average, it's very difficult to be one or the other, good or bad. So you do have to choose. You do have to make these choices. And if you're trying to make these choices to gain and acquire wisdom, to be courageous, speak your mind, to stand up for truth, to help those who cannot help themselves, much like Balian does in Kingdom of Heaven, whenever he stands outside of Carrick with his group of 50 soldiers, 50 knights, and they go at the Muslim army of perhaps 1,000 or 2,000 people before Saladin arrives. If you're trying to be someone who is temperate, who is not going to indulge in wine and rich foods and beer and cocktails lavishly just because you can afford it, just because this is the fruits of my labor that I am allowed to enjoy. If you're someone who is disciplining their mind with what they're taking in, if you're someone who's disciplining their body, working out every day, working out 2 times a day, working out a couple days a week, because that is an achievement here in America. More and more people are becoming obese. Over half the population at some point in the near future will be, if it's not already the case now. I forget the statistic. But if you're trying to do all this, you're going to feel alienated. But I can tell you, as someone who is also trying to do this, who's gotten better and better and better and better and better year after year after year, though someone who is still imperfect, I am not fallible. I am someone who has a shadow. I am someone who possesses anger, who possesses a grieving for the person I was before I made mistakes, before I slipped up, before I was poisoned by a culture that has many things I revere, but many things I find sickening and disgusting. All I can say is that, first and foremost, you can't change it overnight. Secondly, even if you could, you wouldn't want to. Third, and I'm speaking for myself. Third, the most enjoyable part is working on yourself. Fourth, the only thing you can do is work on yourself. Fifth, it's more important to express the traits and qualities anyway. Because as the early Christians knew all too well, if there is no risk, there is no reward. Now, I'm not a believer in the reward. I think you and I should do it regardless of reward. I think we should do it because it's right. Because these qualities and traits have better consequences. They make for a better society. They make for higher trust communities. They make for better interactions. They make for more creativity. They make for smarter, more intelligent people. They make for more progress. They make for more innovation. They make for prosperity and abundance. Point blank. End of discussion right there. I think we should do it without reward. But the early Christians knew that the reward was heaven. The reward was getting to live with Christ. The reward was facing down death, perhaps in the Colosseum, as a persecuted sect. In the first 3 centuries of their existence, they knew that if they were to die, they were going to do it by the paw of a lion or by a bear, some wild animal. They were going to be crucified like their Savior. They knew this. Now, of course, you're not going to be crucified. Hopefully that doesn't come back. My word. Hopefully there is no Coliseum coming, though the UPMC building in Pittsburgh kind of looks like it, at least in its size and scale. Hopefully that doesn't come back unless it's true entertainment in the form of football or rugby or something like that, something a little bit more tame. If you're not willing to suffer the blows, then don't be virtuous to begin with. Don't even try. Because that's part of the game. That is the game. Suffering the blows. Not even blows from other people, as much as blows from yourself. Blows from yourself in the form of thinking, why do I even bother? Why do I even bother to bite my tongue? Why do I even bother to maintain a calm demeanor? Why do I even bother to mediate disagreements? Why do I even bother to go to the gym all the time? What am I training for? What am I educating for myself for? What am I going to use this for? I think this all the time. These thoughts pop up. But again, it's a sub-personality. A personality that was sent into my mind. An infiltrator, a spy from the enemy camp that is trying to usurp the throne, trying to steal it away from me. I won't let it happen. You can't let it happen either. Because these are trying times, like every time in history has been. There hasn't been a time where it wasn't trying. Even the 50s, the golden age of America, was the McCarthy era, the Red Scare. You couldn't do anything. It was conformist to the point of having a noose around your neck. Even those were trying times. Fallout shelters, school simulations of what would happen if the button got pushed. Trying times. It's always been trying times. But you were built for trying times because you're a human being. And that's what we do. We suffer, we persevere, we push through, we suffer again, either at our own hand or the hands of someone else, and we keep going. That's what we're built to do. We're built to suffer and keep moving. And with that, I say, God bless. Have a great night. I rambled a little bit more than usual in this video. So let me know if you appreciated that or not. And I will see you in the next one. Much love, peace. This is New Da Vinci. Have a blessed night.